because a jungler looks good on a team does not mean he'll be great on another team. Because jungler looks bad on one team does not mean he'll be good on another team. So, junglers are really fucking hard to judge. Like, remember Wiggly? Remember, like, how you shat on me for saying, oh, I think Wiggly is going to be great. Wiggly is tied for having the most player of the game right now. I know that doesn't mean much, but he's been having.
I know what you mean, but that is such a tenuous fucking reason to give.
He's been great in summer, right? While he looked like one of the worst junglers in spring.
He's been pretty good, yeah.
And I think the switch out from Darshan to Ruin has boosted Wiggly so much. It's just the whole combination of a team means so much to a jungle and means so much to a jungle performance. It's really just hard to judge junglers in isolation.
Right, this is going to be episode 66 of Listen Loco. You know, I don't know if you're aware of this, Loco. I don't know how much you know about American culture, but you know that like Route 66 or whatever it's called, Highway 66 is like a famous trip that people take through America where they go through like these you can do like a trip across America and that's like a key area you go along. There's like a whole movie about it. You ever heard of that?
No, but are we going to do it? You, me, and Monty?
I don't know about that. Here's the thing. I fucking hate travel and road trips. Like, you know, one of the saddest things, right, is, you know, the infamous incident I can tell you it was in March of 2014 where I basically just like went on a little rant about how shit Poland is as a country.
Yeah.
What people don't know is, I mean, I actually wrote a whole Facebook post about it, but what I realized is the sort of person who's mad at you over that sort of thing isn't really interested in hearing your side. So I realized it was kind of almost a waste of time doing it. But I thought for people who just were interested. And I laid out, basically, people don't know. Like, that I basically was just mad triggered about the fact I had to travel like 4 hours after I did that show. So I hate travel. It's so rubbish. It's because what people don't realize is like now in 2019, travel's brilliant. Yeah, like you can have a tablet, you can have all your latest shows on there. You can have literally whatever you do at home. You can play games. You can have whatever you call it. You can have a Switch with you. You can have the old Game Boy one. You can do all the shit nowadays. You can. But you remember this even when you began in esports. Travel was garbage. It was the most nightmare thing of all time to go like 9 hours or somewhere.
I mean,
rubbish, wasn't it?
I actually loved traveling with like the team and stuff because like it was fun. Like when I was the coach,
if you have friends. Yeah. If you're on your own, it sucks. Man.
Yeah, I have friends. You don't. That's your problem. That's why.
I just wasn't on a team. I didn't live in a team. Listen, mate, you didn't have friends. I could go right now. I could call up some of those fucking guys from Frost right now and they tell me all the shit about you. So, first of all, the idea they were your friends. No. The only reason you were on that team is they naively thought you were better than them at League of Legends. So
I was.
Well done. Your first ever exercise in successful marketing. You pulled that one off. But that's the problem with marketing, Loco, is in the reality, the product eventually gets tested in the market.
Yeah.
And if it is found to be lacking, sometimes it loses its market value, you know. So as a result, a guy who doesn't eat,
the value grows.
Mate, all I'm going to say is this. Frost was literally willing to take one of the best top laners in the world and make him a shit.
He was not oh my god, he was not the best top laner. Don't fucking
he was way better.
Fucking talk to me. Don't fucking talk to me about Wong.
He was way better.
He wasn't that good as a top laner. Oh my god.
Yeah, he was.
Oh my god, he's fucking garbage. Oh my god.
He was one of the best.
Okay, anyways, Duncan, we should do a road trip. You, me, Monty, we go on Road 66. We start in LA and we end up in New York. Let's go.
If that works.
We live stream it the whole time. We live stream like the car.
We need some like big sponsor, like tequila sponsorship or something, and then that's how we get through it all, you know.
Yeah. The 3 minutes.
Maybe weed maps. Maybe that's the sponsorship we need, right? They can just come in, help us out. Along the way, we drop off people's deliveries. You know, we bring a big bundle. So that's a pretty good idea, actually. That's not a bad idea, is it?
That's illegal. That's illegal.
Yeah.
Not all.
Only in certain states. Yeah. That's the only problem. We couldn't do the full trip of America.
I'm not sure.
We'd have to sort of go.
Maybe we
have to go like LA to Colorado or something. Maybe I don't think Texas is. That's the problem. I don't think you could get through the middle, could you? The middle is where you get blocked.
Yeah, and well, we unload all our stuff where it gets blocked, and then we do like a silver part of the trip, and then we start up again on one of the green streets.
Exactly.
I'm so fucking down. After Worlds, let's go. Let's go.
Right. So okay, obviously this is an LCS show. We haven't got a guest for this one, but we watch the LCS. We talk bollocks about it. It's the most popular league overall. Right. Here's the first question.
It's the best.
This is the first thing to talk about. Right. Even though, Loco, everyone talks about the fact that LCS, it was the big complaint about it last split. It's supposed to be a top-heavy league, right? It's supposed to be a league where, like, you have Team Liquid, Cloud9, TSM, whatever order you want them in. But everyone pretty much agrees they're the top three. And at the moment, it's quite debatable who number 4 is. The difference between number 4 and number 6 is probably bigger than the difference between number 3 and number 4, in theory. Well, at the moment, yes, okay, we've only had 6 games played. But at the moment, there is literally like a 6-way tie for first place. There's 6 teams that are 4 and 2. What do you think of this? Does it mean anything particular?
I think it means nothing. I still think TSM, Cloud9, and
Team
Liquid are the best 3 teams. They just have the best players overall. Like, having the best players, surprisingly, means you have the best team. Who the fuck knew? So yeah, like, there's strength of schedule, there's people coming back from MSI, there's TSM ending draft, there's C9 dropping odd game. Like, there's just like weird stuff that happen, and like CLG getting off to a good start, Opting getting off to a good start. Like, I wouldn't read too much into like 6 teams being tied for number 1. I still think there is a clear top 3.
Because the interesting one to me is obviously one of those 6 teams is Golden Guardians, right? And I will say, to be fair, they haven't played Team Liquid and TSM, who are 2 of the top teams. So of their 6 games, the only people they haven't played is Optic, TSM, and Team Liquid. So in theory, you'd expect them to lose probably at least 2 of those 3. So they're probably not going to maintain the number 1 record. But I do think actually that's one area where unlike Optic, I don't look at Golden Guardians and say they'll fall massively. Because remember, they ended pretty well at the end of the last split, and obviously started terribly because they started 0-4, didn't they? So if they'd have started anywhere vaguely better than 0-4, they could have obviously already been 4th. They could have maybe challenged for 3rd. It's not impossible. I mean, there were very good reasons they were 0-4. It's not like it was an accident, but I think it's not that crazy, actually, as I see the split go on. I think Golden Guardians is legitimately the one challenging to make it a foursome if they can.
So the thing about Golden Guardians is I kind of like question them every single time, and every single time they have been able to answer the question pretty handedly. Like, is Froggen still good? That was my question for them in spring. Froggen is still damn good. And then another question that I had for this split is, can Deathly play team fights? Can Deathly play champions that are non-Varus and Ezreal? He played 2 Draven games and he won both of them. So Deathly is answering that question also pretty well. And other thing was, like, can Froggen play the OP champions? Like, can he play Irelia? He's been able to play Irelia. There's one more question I have is, what does Golden Guardians look like when Ole isn't on Tahm Kench? We saw that a little bit with 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves banned Tahm Kench. Golden Guardians still won out. So they are...
And the CLG game didn't go too well, though. The old Nautilus pick, mate.
They still are limited in certain ways, but they've been consistently growing, and they just haven't been Froggen, play around Froggen. Like, we are a team fight Froggen late game mage team. Like, they've been expanding beyond that bit by bit. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for Golden Guardians, but I don't think it'll be a foursome. I still think top 3 will stay top 3.
I want to talk about this issue, though, because actually that's the thing I've been thinking about a lot. Because I agree with you, actually. I basically have... You notice I've never said Golden Guardians are my favourite team just because Froggen plays from these my favourite player. Like, that connection is not at all there, and they'd have to get a lot better before I would ever even side with them on that one. Like, right now, I would take any of those top 3 over Golden Guardians, precisely because those top 3, I think, have earned their status, because generally, beyond the odd result, you know who they should beat. You know who should have a chance to beat them. And they are pretty stable. They tend to stick to that. Whereas the problem I have with Golden Guardians is they certainly, as you saw with the Cloud9 game, they can steal a game off a team better than them. But they can also lose, in theory, to everyone in this league. Almost. Like, there are a lot of teams that they can just... Because the problem with them as a team is they can be winning a game and lose it. Like, that's a bad... Like, if you want to be one of the top teams... Being able to front run is like the first thing you need as a minimum. Then you want to be able to, come back in the games. You want to have like the 50-50 game. Or if you can't win the games that basically you've already done the hard work in, you're going to have a hard time being an elite team. And that's why I want to tie this in, actually, to the Ole angle. So it's easy, again, to look at Ole and just look at him individually in a vacuum and go, right, Ole, even if just with your eyes, if you watch him play, he is so much better on Tahm Kench than he is on almost anything else. I mean, he was okay at times if he played like Galio, but I would argue, as I'm going to in a minute, I think it's for similar reasons. So I would agree. If you get him on that, he's great. Otherwise, well, here's the big problem. Loco, as a support champion in the current meta, what is the best thing in terms of how it affects the opposing team that Tahm Kench does?
saving your, what is it, backline?
Yeah, he disengages something, right? He stops someone dying, keeps the fight going longer, or he allows you to disengage entirely, right? That's a pretty OP ability anyway. Like, that's why a lot of players used to love that champion in the past. But if you notice, he's not spammed constantly in every region. He's not like the most popular support pick for everyone. Everyone else who's a great support player doesn't have this flaw that, like, if you take time catch away, the game's over. That's why actually he's not like the most banned in every single, except. Well, this is one thing I want to say. I do agree Ole is much better specifically, but I also think this is a Golden Guardians problem, because when they have that disengage tool, it doesn't matter then if Froggen goes in too early, Deathly's too pushed up, etc. Like Contracts goes too hyphy before the team's ready to collapse. Because one problem you will always have, as someone who's watched all of Froggen's teams play, is that he does have, on some level, that risk-averse quality. So he is never going to be a guy who, like, he's not like an IG player who will just follow up like that, or a G2 player where it's like, oh, we're having a fight, cool, let's all go in. Even as a fight's about to start, he's always thinking, like, is this the right one for me to go in, though? Like, can I risk dying at this point? Should I, like, maybe back off if it's going to go badly? And so I actually think that's another reason why the Ole angle ends up being even more important, because without that disengage tool, for a team that wants to team fight, they're not that good at engaging. They're not that good at pulling the trigger on the fight, you know. So they, in a way, that I think that explains a lot of the ups and downs, because the other team has to basically do something good or bad to determine the outcome of the match. It's not always Golden Guardians, I don't feel like.
Golden Guardians are great when they are in control of a situation and they're letting the enemy team come into you. Like, that's when it's a lot easier to land skill shots. That's when Froggen gets, like, really good picks with Lux. And that's also one of Froggen's, like, strongest suit. Like, he loves using terrain really well to kind of use it as a defensive tool on the long range carries. Like, I mean, most obviously, like Anivia with her wall, like adjusting how the team fight is played. But when you watch him play stuff like Vel'Koz or Lux,
he's always like all those. I'd even add, if you remember classically, he was one of those guys who, like Faker, who went way too ham spamming Xerath when it came out for the same reason. They wanted to play a long range, get this advantage. Yeah, exactly like you're saying.
Yeah, Vel'Koz, Lux, Xerath, like using the terrain to his advantage. Like, that has been a very signature way of Froggen playing out team fights. So, and you see that a lot in how Golden Guardians take the team fight and what kind of team fights they take.
Because I'll give you the reason why I was thinking of that is because traditionally you would think, in theory, Lissandra should be a dream champion for Froggen, right?
Not really.
As it can play a long range, always decent in lane. But the reason why it isn't, though, is because you have to go in. He doesn't want to fucking go all the way into the middle of a team fight. That's why he saw in that classic, like, last game they had in the playoffs or whatever, like, it was just garbage. Like, it doesn't fit his style at all. And his team, unfortunately, unlike a lot of teams, his team isn't really set up to, like, cover his weaknesses. His team only really succeeds by amplifying his strengths, if you know what I mean. That's actually not usually a hallmark, as I often made the point, of, like, the best teams, really.
Well, on the Lissandra point, I think Froggen does best on scaling champions when time is his friend and not the enemy's friend.
Sure.
And Lissandra is not a scaling champion. And also, as you said, she's a very proactive champion where you want to be going. She's more mid-range. Like, you want to be looking for the fights. You want to be forcing angles. And that plays very away from Froggen's kind of strength.
Sure. Because actually, I mean, I don't have that much more on the team generally, because actually the interesting thing about Golden Guardians is they don't look like they've changed massively from the team in the spring split. I'd agree they've had a couple of better, like, early moments to seem like they understand it a little bit more. But they still have, for me, that's like the fatal flaw, is that they don't seem like a team. Like, they are. I just don't think they're very good at choosing when to actually start fights, when to engage them. Like you say, if they're in a lead and they have the vision on the map and they can set up where the fight takes place, brilliant. But it's like they can't just go and create. Like, they can't do any of the shit that G2 and IG and these teams that are very aggressive do. They can't. They're not even playing the same game. I mean, luckily they're in NA, so it's not a problem at the moment.
One thing, like, usually when you're in behind, you want to make pick situations. You want to try to flank them. Like, you want to try to make things random and try to catch them off guard. How Golden Guardians handles being behind is they mitigate losses and they try to scale up, because they often have scaling comps and they play really defensive. So yeah, it is a hallmark of how Golden Guardians plays. But I really do think this team is like an, as you said, amplification of Froggen. It's like Froggen and people around him, like, playing around him and building a team around Froggen. It is well built around Froggen.
The team in that sense. No, that's the weird thing. On the one hand, I'll give them some props. Like, if you consider how badly it started, they have got an identity. And as I pointed out on some of the other shows, I think it's when you don't have an identity like Misfits that you're in big fucking trouble. I don't care who your players are. You need, like, a strong identity, because you yourself need to know where your win conditions are, where you can lose the game. If you don't have an identity, you're guessing like everyone else is. It's going to be really hard to win consistently. I'll give them credit. They've got the identity. The problem is, at the moment, like, with how many games they played the whole spring split, and we've already had 6 games now, so that's a third of the regular split. I don't see them becoming a team that has this quality of knowing how to control a game and knowing when to, like, they're not going to be that team. Like, they're lacking. I would assume they're even lacking the mind to be able to do that. Like, I think everyone does their part as well as they can, but they are more just a team of players to me. They're not a team that has like a great mind for the game in it.
Well, their ceiling, I think, is reaching top 4. I think they'll get top 4 if everything comes together nicely for them and they refine their style. They won't beat the best 3 teams in the league, but they won't lose to the other teams in the league.
Here's the thing. If they get the right team, I'm not quite sure yet who it might be. It might be TSM. If they could get the right team in like the semi-finals, they could give them a great series. I wouldn't pick them to win it, though. That's the problem. Like, realistically, semis is probably the best.
Yeah.
Because the problem is, like, to win a best of 5, I mean, you already saw when they tried in spring, that I think the flaws will just come out in a best of 5. And especially... one of the things Golden Guardians, actually, we should also reference as well. One thing I think you definitely can always criticize Golden Guardians for is just like certain aspects of the draft. In general, I actually think now they've gotten a good sense of what they want to do in the draft. They get the champions they want. Definitely helps, by the way, that they have some players in Haunter and Froggen who sometimes don't want to play the meta stuff, just want to play their champions. So you're going to get them generally. People aren't going to ban a lot of that shit. But the problem is they nearly always have like, if at the end of the draft they get that one wonky pick, could be on the Deathly, could be on Ole, that does fuck the whole game up for them. If you see, like, they can die from one draft pick in a way so few top teams can. Like Cloud9, if you do the one dodgy draft pick, most of their players could probably handle it. They could probably still win that game.
I mean, they're a machine. They're a machine built around Froggen. And the thing about machines is, if you take out a gear here, if you, take out a cog here, the machines fall down. And the machine stopped functioning. So they're a well-oiled machine, and it shows in draft. They're great when they run their system, but if you fuck with their system, they'll start falling apart.
Do you actually think there's room for growth in the team, though? I told you I'm kind of not a believer in that. I mean, people might see generally, until someone proves it, I'm fairly pessimistic about growth and improvement. I think a lot of people tend to stay quite the same. It's just the story they tell themselves. Do you think there's actually, is there an area you really believe they can grow? I mean, for example, I know he's now played many splits, but surely Contracts isn't just going to be this jungler forever. Surely there's going to be some growth at some point.
There'll be, more so than growth, I'll think Golden Guardians, there'll be refinement. There won't be like huge jumps, but they'll refine what they have and add small layers to it. Like Ole will learn champions that are not Tahm Kench. Definitely will learn champions that are not Ezreal and Varus, and will get better in team fights, but they won't like grow exponentially this split.
Right, let's just switch it straight up and go into a team I definitely want to find out what you think about, which has got to be Team Liquid. Team Liquid. Right, so obviously the interesting thing about Team Liquid is they lost those 2 games to teams you wouldn't expect them to do. CLG, Echo Fox earlier in the split. Somewhat level out now, though. Obviously, they've also been able to get, I mean, for example, it was a pretty big win to beat Optic, who at the time was riding high. That was pretty decent. They haven't played the big squads yet, obviously. They haven't played TSM, they haven't played Cloud9, so we don't really know overall if they're the best team. But what's your sense at the moment? You think, like, are they heading towards being the best again? Are they the best now? Is someone else better?
So there's like shines, right? Like Xmithy's Baron Steel versus Optic, individually, like Double Lift, Jensen, Core JJ, like they have really, really good individual shining moments. So all the players, none of them are washed up and they're still good. It's just sometimes their system fails, and sometimes how they set up team fight has been bad, which is like super surprising to me, because TL was, I think, the most systematically and best coached team in the league in spring. Like they were just so by the books, and they go doop 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 doop. We win bottom, we dive bottom, we set up dragon, we take dragon, we swap top lane, we get herald, and then we take some turrets, and then we get baron, and then we end the game. Like they were so straightforward and so systematic. You knew exactly what they were gonna do, but they did it very, very cleanly, and they would just do it so well every single time. And that part is missing. They don't feel like machines anymore. They feel like their mid game just is so weird. They fuck up team fight setups. They fuck up vision. Like this has been the core of TL, and it's just not there. So yeah, I'm just surprised. It's been very uncharacteristically bad split from them. Their early game is good and their individual play is good, but somehow like their good coaching and good system fell apart.
One of the things, though, that I think is quite interesting in terms of Team Liquid is I actually think one of the reasons, I'm going to speculate entirely. I haven't heard this in an interview. I haven't been told it by a player. This is pure speculation from the outside, just looking at like variables I can see in the server, is I think that they have actually, one of the things that they tried to learn from MSI was some of their players were way too limited in terms of their champion pool, what they played. Like Doublelift was an obvious example. The guy is like an 8 or 9 year veteran at AD carry. He had one of the smallest champions in the fucking pool. That's despite the fact they actually made it to smallest champion pools in the tournament, that is, despite the fact they made the final. So, for example, if you look at this split, already he spammed the fuck out of Zaya. He played it twice in spring. He's played it, I think, 4 times already. Like, I think that was clearly trying to make this, like, you know, expand his pool in that sense.
Well, his Zaya was always really good. They were kind of scared to play Zaya Rakan because of Draven Morgana counter that G2 could pull out, and that was like such a heavy talking point after the split, or after MSI. So I think this is like Doublelift and Core JJ like being like, yeah, fuck you guys, we can't play Zaya Rakan. Don't say we can't play this.
A little bit, but the thing is, I think in general, I've seen a bunch of TL players. It seemed I actually believe that they are trying to like expand their champion pools, because I think the logic, right, makes sense. What time do you have to change? Like, you can't do stuff in scrims that you don't ever do in matches. Like, anyone who, like, you know, okay, I'll give you the great joke, right? I know it's not really a thing in League of Legends, but in Counter-Strike, the famous joke that everyone would say, because it's a real thing that fans say when they're really beginners at the game in Counter-Strike and they don't know much about like how high-level play, is when their team loses their favorite team in like a small tournament, the joke used to be that they'd be like, oh, they're just saving their strats for the major. Like, you know, they're saving their best tactics. And the logic is, right, that only works to a pleb, like a real noob, because he thinks it's like a movie. That, you know, you've got like the secret strategy, this one thing that, you know, no one knows, and if you pull it out in the big round of the final game, like a movie, you know, that you win the whole tournament off it, and you're like, see, I'm so glad I didn't use that earlier. Whereas obviously anyone who understands even basics about Counter-Strike or any team game knows that you don't really tend to have like one-off, like that's like a cheese. In reality, your best tactics are the ones you've run a million times. That's the idea. You've executed them to the nth degree, you know, every little piece and every part, you've refined it all, so that even if someone did know what you were going to do, it wouldn't matter. It'd still work. Like an NFL player, they can know the player, but if you execute it correctly, it can win. It could still be the best, most effective thing you could do. Like, I feel like Team Liquid, I hope so at least, have taken some of the lessons of MSI and realized, like, listen, that was like the best they could have ever have had, and they still got smashed in the final. Like, even the miracle win over IG didn't win them the tournament. They still end up losing in a humiliating fashion. So I think they kind of know they can't only play like spring split Team Liquid if they go to Worlds. So when else are you getting a chance to actually change that? Like, it doesn't really make much sense to just win NA only and then change in like the player break. Because again, like, if anything, hasn't that been the lesson NA has been bashed with over the head, is like, you don't want to play one way and then try and just level up to Korea 1 week before Worlds. You want to kind of have your own style, and hopefully that works against Korea when you get to Worlds. So at some point you have to try other things. You have to experiment with some things.
Well, my take on it is they're just like kind of...
Do you think that's bullshit? Do you think they're just not good at the game right now?
No, I think they're just tired and burned out. I think like spring split into finals, into MSI finals, into short break, right into summer split is such a burnout. And then they have Rift Rivals in the middle too. Like, oof, I just think TL is burned out. I don't think like they had this like sudden realization at MSI where they were like, oh, our champion pool is like hugely problematic. Like, they are going to be the team they are. Because if TL was more on like, let's say like on fire, right? And they were more sharp and more focused, they would be talking about, oh, this 4P, like we are after this 4P, like we're super focused about this. And it seems like C9 and TSM came back with more of a fire and more of a hunger than TL did.
Do you actually think, though, like, because by the way, what you've just said there is the real reason why Rift Rivals doesn't matter. Is like, I'll give you an example. Let's say at Rift Rivals, so for example, OG can play TSM and you can have Mithy versus Ven and you can have Mithy versus TSM, right? Maybe a game like that gets Mithy a little bit of problem. Maybe he wants to prove something or make a statement. But aside from that, any team that actually thinks they're going to go to Worlds, any team that thinks they can win their split, is probably just going to mail in Rift Rivals. They're just going to go, they're going to treat it as though it was just an exhibition game, fuck around a bit, whatever, you know. If we start winning, great. It's
enjoy
fun.
NA.
Yeah, but the point is, like, I think that's the reason why players go out of their way to say they don't like it, because they want you to know even before they start, win or lose. Like, I don't really count this that much. It's not like a big thing in my career. If my opponent beats me, great. If I beat him, whatever. Like, I don't blame them though, because if I had to pick a tournament to chill on, I would pick that 100%. Obviously, who gives a fuck?
Means nothing.
Like, I honestly think right now, except for moving it to a different period of the calendar, which is almost impossible because, as you said, there's no room anywhere. I think the only way you could make this mean anything is you have to give some sort of like crazy inducement. Like, you have to give them like insane prize money, or maybe the winner of Rift Rivals, you know, their region gets an extra slot. And it'd have to be something ridiculous, I think. Otherwise, it's never going to matter.
Yeah.
No matter who you are.
It's just for pride, like, and that's what they kind of build Rift Rivals as, like two rivals like battling for pride, like over their region and over like the western coast.
It's kind of like the first Battle of the Atlantic, basically, because if you remember, people did get a little bit pumped for that one. But the problem is, like it never has worked in that way. Like I don't think any region's ever gotten that hype. Maybe LPL did to beat Korea, but that's about it. I think that's the only one I can think of that cared.
It's just a lot less hypey than what it could be. What to say? It's just a weird tournament. I think just get rid of it overall.
I do as well. Like even if you could find space for another tournament in the calendar, why waste your time with Rift Rivals to do a real tournament? Like, you can still do a tournament, by the way, that has like I give you an obvious example, I would say, by the way. Say you could make space in the calendar, because I don't like the fact this is like during the split anyway. I think that's a terrible precedent to set. But let's say you could find some other space in the calendar. Maybe you make the spring split shorter or something, or whatever you do. Maybe you make less teams in the league. I don't know what angle you'd go with, right? But if I was going to bring another tournament, I get it, right? The problem is, at the moment, you've got Worlds and you've got MSI, and they're quite clever in that they're distinct formats. So we all know MSI's champion versus champion, which has its own appeal. But then what's great about Worlds is you get, in theory, all the best teams from all the regions, and then they all battle to see who the best is. I think you keep the Rift Rivals concept, like NA and EU play a tournament, China and Korea play a tournament, but then you just make it a tournament. So you just make it like the top three teams from NA, top teams from EU battle each other in just a tournament. And then you see who wins that tournament. And you see in the LPL and the Korean League, you see who wins that. I think that would be a way better international, because again, it would have its own flavour. You could still have the pride aspect. Like, who the fuck wouldn't want to see like TSM play Origin now in a real match at the semi? Of course, we'd all be on board. I think that would actually be that's the killer for me, because then it ticks all the boxes. They're all distinct tournaments, but they all still have their own value.
If Spring Split is too long, then just having like maybe 2, 3, 4 play the other 2, 3, 4, and then number 1 goes to MSI. So like pre-MSI tournament.
That's also a good one. Yeah, that's not a bad one. Yeah, you're right. Have MSI instead of that be the bigger tournament, obviously, but then have like you say, the best of the rest, as it were, meet each other in their own tournament. Because obviously, if you win that, remember, you still won't be the world champion. Everyone will go, right, now you have to prove it when you get to Worlds. So it would still have a concept, because that's the key for me, is like, I know Riot isn't doing it. Like, it's not like CSGO where you can have 8 tournaments that basically are all the same concept. Like, if you win number 1, it's the same as winning number 8. They're just a similar concept. It's who wins the most. The point in League is clearly to have a hierarchy of the tournaments even, and each one has different value and different meaning. Hence, you can do it in your career. So as long as I'm accepting that premise, I think it's a better approach overall. What about this then? Team Liquid hasn't played Cloud9 or C9. In fact, they play GGS is their next match, and then they play Clutch. Let me see how far it is. It looks like they play Cloud9 on week 5. And since they played TSM first, I'm assuming they're playing them like ages from now. I think they played TSM on week. I think it's on the last week. I assume it's probably it's the second. Let me think. I can't find where it is actually. TL versus TSM. I don't know where it is. Whatever. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I can't find where it is in the show. Oh, there's a week 9. That's why. Yes, they play them in the last game. So C9 is the one they're going to play more recent, more closer to then and now. So in light of what we've just said, would you pick C9 to beat Team Liquid?
Yeah, I actually think C9 TSM look better than TL right now. And I do think TL will fix their problems. I just don't know when they're going to fix it. And if by the time they fix it, like what C9 and TSM look like, because all 3 teams are extremely close last split. And TL, like them going to MSI and like going to finals, I thought would level them up, but it actually like put them in maybe a worse spot just due to the burnout. Like, I don't know. TL feels really weird to me, but C9...
They did beat TSM in the opening game.
Them beating TSM was so much on TSM fucking up draft. I'm not saying, TSM would have won with a better draft. It's with that draft, like, it was a washout. The draft was terrible from TSM.
I didn't think it was good.
Azir into Silas.
To be fair, as I often say, I actually think TSM in the whatever universe they did this, I told you, my assumption with most teams is I think they make the draft they really do think is the best for them. Now, sure, they might 10 minutes later think, what the fuck did I do that for? But again, the problem is we had MSI. Everyone knows what Azir and Silas is like. So they obviously thought that was a good matchup. They picked it. It wasn't a surprise for them, They didn't blind Azir and then just get Silas, did they?
There was an adaptation that TSM made in pick 4 and 5 that made them kind of uncomfortable, but they did it anyways because they were out of options, and then their draft became really messy. I just talked to a few people from TSM during, I think week 2, so don't worry too much about the draft. TSM is better than that. Yeah, they fixed that permutation. Okay, you can't tell us the specific thing because obviously it's insider info, but can you give us a ballpark concept or something that might be different more generally about the team without giving away? They were unprepared about a certain aspect and made the wrong choice, and they're going to be fine next time. I really do believe in TSM staff, not just because they're my friends. Who the fuck doesn't respect Tony to do well? What they did in spring was fucking miraculous. Taking that ragtag roster, Greg getting his wrist injured, taking Acadian all the way to finals, all the way to game 5, being 2 games up on TL. TSM is a good team, and I still think will be a great team in summer.
All right, here's a question for you. You were saying when Crown played TF, you were like, why is he picking TF? And then, who is it? You're fucking... the person you are just basically a walking organ donor for, Bjergsen, picked TF himself. What do you think of that?
It was okay. I didn't love the pick. I thought Bjerg was decent on it. Bjerg had a good weekend.
Because he's got a weird champion pool this split, mate. I don't really know what he's doing exactly.
I think...
Because I would think with all these... mid lane right now has the most OP picks. If you notice in NA, they don't even actually always play the OP top lane solos now. They play a lot more of the teamfight ones. So mid, in theory, is the role where you can get all the fucking OP shit.
I mean, stuff like Silas definitely is better mid, but a lot of the OP champions actually go better top. Irelia is actually debatable. Irelia is sometimes a better mid laner, but stuff like Aatrox definitely better top lane. Irelia can be better top lane, Ryze playable in both lanes. So mid lane usually actually ends up taking it. Mid lane, actually, they pick the OPs and the OPs go to top lane, and mid lane just ends up picking whatever is left. On the topic of TF, I will admit this. I do think Crown was a better TF than Bjerg was. Crown's TF was the best we've seen yet.
No, his was nuts. Yeah, I agree. What do you think, though, about Bjergsen's champion pool for this split, though?
It's been adapting to what the team needs. I know he played more Zillion while no one else is playing Zillion. It's to kind of go with the Hecarim pick. TF, it's to... looks like to complete a comp, I guess. So... And then playing Azir into Silas because someone had to play something into Silas. A lot of it has been just adjusting for the pick. It's not Bjerg can't play OP, so he's playing all this weird shit. It's the OPs are going to other members on the team, most notably Broken Blade, and we need to fill the holes in our comp. And Bjergsen plays everything, and he's the most flexible, so Bjergsen's filling the holes more so than he has a weak champion pool.
That's actually a problem I have with TSM, though. I actually think that's a factor that's going to hold them back. Because the problem is, I personally don't believe Sven, any time I've seen him in LCS so far, has been an elite AD carry. He's maybe been mid-table. At times, I'd say at times in the spring split, maybe he was above average. But I never thought he was that sick overall. Broken Blade was good in spring split. He's had a little bit more questionable results that summer so far, but he still had a couple of good games. The problem for me is I think Bjergsen is the best player on TSM.
Easily.
So I actually agree with you, by the way. When I look at what he's picked this split, last split, and in fact, the last couple of years, I think that's how he does draft. He picks purely to fill out the comp, and he picks to cover a jungler's weakness, or he picks to cover an AD carry, whatever it is, he picks to cover his teammates' weaknesses or what they need additionally. Now, the problem with that is that's brilliant if you are in an amazing team that has sick players, and they can all carry the game as well. That way, you're actually using like a strength of yours to cover one of their weaknesses. One of my classic principles of team play. The problem I have is I think there are times, and that's what you've seen in some of these drafts, where it just means that Bjergsen ends up in a tough spot, but you still needed him to carry the game, or you need him to do fucking really, really well. He can't just be a background player in that sense.
I feel like a lot of players chase personal glory, where Bjergsen chases like greatness, and that's like a weakness and a strength in itself. Like definitely, Bjergsen is not the same kind of like selfish player he was, and he chases to what makes the best teammate. Like what is
you
the
can
best
go too
leader.
far both ways though, right?
And Bjergsen,
you know what I mean? Like I'll give you an example, okay? So even though at the end of his career he didn't do this, a brilliant example of someone who did go way too far was obviously like my old mate Forgiven. If he literally thought for him right now in this lane, this champion is the best, there were years where he would have basically said, I don't give a fuck what everyone else has to pick me that, I will win the lane and I'll win the game. It's like Piglet, you know. So that's going too far the other way, I'd agree. Like there's times where, you know, if the rest of the comp needs Sivir and that's not going to be a sexy champ, you should probably pick it to win this particular game, to be a good teammate. But my problem is this. I feel like, unfortunately, this is one aspect I feel like Bjergsen's been a little bit ruined by being on TSM, is I think he is someone, by the way, I can tell you, I know from talking to him, that it does get to him a bit when there's public criticism. And not just fans, but, like, you know, people, when analysts criticize, is he as good as Jensen, or maybe he's to blame for the world's results, etc. And the problem I've noticed is you get a type of player where their way of responding to criticism is they kind of want to, in a way, they almost think like there's a point to the criticism, but they want to prove it like even more so. So in this particular case, the best way to prove that you aren't like a selfish player who makes demands of others is to always be unselfish towards others, is always to help them. But sometimes you are Bjergsen. Like, there's been teams where LeBron James played where he's a brilliant passer, but there's been some teams where it's like, dude, you should just take 5 more shots. Like, the guy you're passing it to isn't going to make those shots. You need to take over this game every now and then.
Well, Bjergsen, I think Bjergsen was incredibly selfish in 2014 and 2015, and it was
brilliant. I loved it. My favourite Bjergsen in many ways. Before he became the new Froggen, as I've often told you many times, but you just can't get over because he's still in that denial phase.
And he had to be to carry the team, and he had to like play that way. He had to be that way as a person, and he probably views 2014, 2015 as a not so great part of his career, and then he views more going into 2016, 2017, that era with Doublelift, that era of like just absolutely conquering NA as probably his best years. And if you had such great results, being a great teammate on top, and like he probably sees that as a growth of his play. Like first I was selfish and then I learned to be a team player, and he sees that as growth, where sometimes being selfish is part of being a great player, and that's like an aspect that's kind of died.
Yes. Absolutely. I would agree on that. Like, that's all. It's also, to be fair, these sorts of conversations are not the conversations, first of all, coaches are often having with players, and definitely players with each other aren't having, because as I hope people understand by the kind of names we were throwing out here, it's pretty rarefied air. There's very few people have this as like a problem to have in their career. Most people either have no choice and they have to play whatever they're told, or most people, they're like a low-level star player and they just get their picks anyway. So it's a very, very difficult scenario to be in. But the reason why I think it's interesting to talk about is because these are the little margins that can decide whether you win or lose, because they are the most powerful players in the game. They're the ones who can decide if their team has the right comp, or if they get the right thing and they can carry the game. And I sometimes personally, we'll see how it plays out over the split. I'll see towards the end if I've changed my mind. But I personally think at the moment, I'd rather Bjergsen at this point in the split was a bit more greedy early on. And I want Sven to show me he can carry the game before he gets more resources, etc.
Bjergsen reminds me kind of like Steph Curry. He's not the best superstar and he's not the one-man carry, but he is the best superstar teammate to have.
I could see the logic on that. Here's the thing, though. We'll keep this one. I'm going to keep everyone guessing as to where we're going on this one, because this one we're going to go extreme now. So it's going to sound local. You know, we did Golden Guardians, we did Team Liquid, we did TSM, right? Oh, we're just going with all the top teams. FlyQuest is 1-5. They have won 1 game this split. They are bottom of the league. What do you think of this? Pretty shocking shit, right?
Their mid-game is just
I would have bet so much money this team would be mid-table. I thought, come on, there's no way they're going to like lose, like, you know, well, definitely not like 5 out of 6. I would have thought at worst they'd lose, 60% of their games. Worst.
Here's my thing. I knew FlyQuest would be worse this season, but I thought it would be due to growth of others not due to FlyQuest being worse. I thought they'd be worse because comparatively, CLG, a team they smashed last split, would be better. Comparatively, Golden Guardians, who they competed with last split, would be clearly better than them. I mean, other off chance one was like 100 Thieves would be better and like compete with them.
Miracle Run,
yeah,
sure.
And then none of that's like the problem. Like it's just FlyQuest is bad. Like FlyQuest mid game is just fucking bad. Like their early game is still good, their early pathing is still good, but their mid game is just horrendous. And I think a lot of it comes from their best player is their jungler, Thorin. And it's not a great meta for jungle right now. When you think of the best jungle champions right now, you think stuff like Sejuani, Olaf, Jarvan. It is no longer a carry jungle meta and is more of a tank utility jungle meta. So the meta is kind of hurting them, and I have no idea. The one thing I can't figure out is why their mid game is so bad. Their mid game just does not fit in together. This was not.
I'll tell you one thing I have to say about this FlyQuest team, and you know what? I'm in an interesting position now because I've been commenting on League of Legends for so many years that sometimes you end up going with like you criticize a player, then he becomes actually too criticized, and suddenly you're the guy defending the guy, and then he goes again, he gets back to the status where people like him, and then you're like, well, no, now you're going too far again. He's actually not as good. And so people think you hate the guy, you love the guy, hate the guy. So the guy I'm actually now going to have to hate on again is fucking Paul Belter. So I was the original Paul Belter. I'm not literally hater. I'm obviously using that as like hyperbole. I just thought his game was like overrated. The reason why I was always the original Paul Belter hater is because people used to always tell me, if you remember when he was back on like Echo Fox, Winter Fox, etc. People, Evil Geniuses, people used to always be like, he's way better than this team. He's so fucking talented, and he's so young. And when he gets a chance, and I always just tell him, first of all, stop saying when he gets a chance. The guy's been playing since he's like 14 years old at a pro level. Like he's not a guy where like age can be misleading. I actually care less about age than I do about experience. If you've got 5 years experience as a pro, I don't give a fuck if you're 20. If you're in your first year as a pro and you're 20, I'll actually treat you as if you were like 16, basically. Like I'll give you more leeway. So the problem is this: Paul Belter is an incredible veteran. He is in nowhere new, and he's probably not going to develop much more than he has now because he's played for so many years. Like you've seen him, and the problem was he's always been an average to above average player. He's never been the best. He's definitely never been the worst or even close to it. I don't care what anyone says, but he's always just been average to above average, and it depended mainly on the team. So I would say for most of his career, especially all the championship years, the years he's been on, the last 3 or 4, he's been above average. He's been a pretty good player, actually. But first of all, this split, I think he's having a slump. I think he's playing pretty badly generally. And the reason why it kills me is because he actually, I mean, not literally, but just in terms of what they've chosen to do, they took my advice, Loco. I was saying last split, okay, I get it for international play. I don't want to see Paul Belter on fucking LeBlanc, Silas. I don't want to see that in international play because I know what happens. But I told you, domestically, of course I do. Give this guy power picks. He's a good player. I take all that back. Like, he is absolute fucking garbo on Silas, Rise. Get all the power picks out of his hands now. Bring back Lysandra. I want him on Azir. Like, let's just get some fucking safe, scaling picks into this motherfucker's hands because he's having a slump, dude. He was a good player last split. It's not going well this split. I don't like my Paul Belter this split.
Here's the thing. I think Paul Belter is actually a decent Rise, and I think Viper is actually a decent Ribbon. But FlyQuest sucks so badly at 1-3-1. Like, none of these split push champions work.
It doesn't make a lot of sense in the comp. You're right.
Yeah. And then when they do play just teamfight comps, like, their teamfight setup is so bad. Like, their mid-game, like, reset timers are so bad. Their mid-game teamfighting setup is so bad. Like, there's just so many things bad about their mid-game. Like, none of the champions actually work for them. Like, this one's actually such a big mystery. Like, in my other show, we talked about it. And the stuff that we said is Centaurian's their best player, not the greatest for the meta. So that's why they look weak mid-game. But man, like, this seems just hard to figure out. Like, why are you so bad? I thought they'd be middle of the pack easily, and
I will agree. By the way, I do actually think that is probably the big flaw going forwards. Is like, obviously Viper is in theory one of the most valuable players to the team because he is NA. He's still fairly new. They got him when a lot of people turned him down, and when he was more risky, they've managed to actually benefit from that. And he seems like a pretty good carry top laner. The problem is the kinds of picks he wants to play are super abusive, like smash the lane champions. So if you're going to play those, you're going to have a hard time having a team fight comp after that. And as we've just pointed out, it's not like Paul Belter traditional fit goes with that either. Like, it's going to be really tough to figure out. Like, I almost think like it's not that the players are bad; they're just in the wrong team. Because if you notice, it wasn't a problem last time, because last split they used to just say Viper just plays on his own and then we play, and then we wait till the end of the game and hope there's a team fight.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, this one's the team I have the hardest read on. I like with other teams, like I can give you good reasonings on, I think they'll be this way, I think they'll be that way, they're this way right now.
You mean it's the hardest to read? Because if you say like the hardest read, people would think that means you have the best read on.
Yeah,
it.
hardest
to read.
Yeah, hardest to read and hardest to get a good grasp on and really understand why they're struggling.
Also, apparently they're just never going to play Wadid, are they? Then is he just in prison now? What is that? Why is he
playing Academy, from what I heard? So, and losing in Academy, FlyQuest Academy is also doing really badly. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on with the org.
Right, let's go and move now. Actually, let's talk about the Optic team, because you know what? There's a reason why we emphasized on those episodes. Yes, they are 4-0. No, they have not played any of the top teams, because what do you know, Loco? They've lost the last 2 games.
I mean, finally played the good teams. They lost, but they did lose in good ways. Like, people that I think are really legit from Optic. I think Arrow is really legit. I think Crown is really legit. I think Meteos is really legit. And I think to a certain degree, Big is, like, good. Crown, man, he had a great game versus Jensen. That Azir game, holy shit. I think the person
he's not only been the best TF, he's been the only functional Azir I've seen in LCS.
He's been the best mid laner. If you just freeze time and look at the first 3 weeks, Crown has been the best mid laner, even in their losses. So, Crown's fucking legit. He is. I never could have guessed Crown would do this well in NA. And one thing that I also noticed is Meteos never ganks top. So, I mean, we knew they would fail when they play carries, and Dokla finally played carries. But historically, Meteos has never ganked top. That's also one thing when I was thinking about, I found out. So
he used to when he had balls, but that was a long, long time ago now. It was like half a decade
Even
ago.
with balls, a lot of times he would prefer ganking bot side or working with mid side or farming his own jungle. Like, balls is the jungler he ganked for the most, but that still wasn't that much. And then you go to P1 with Ziggs, and you go to 100 Thieves with Someday, and then now Optic with Dokla. Like, Meteos is just not... He does not like going to top lane. It's not that he's an incredibly farm heavy jungle. It's more so he's a very good efficient path jungler, and a lot of efficient pathing is ignoring a lane. Like, you can't help all lanes if you're trying to pass efficiently. So yeah, his playstyle just doesn't suit playing well with a top laner, and Dokla is not a top laner you want to play for. So I think like that's a part of Optic that's going to stay true for rest of the split, and they just have to embrace, like, we're not going to play top lanes that require jungle help. We're not going to play top lanes that are easily diveable. We're going to make top lane an independent island and just play around the other lanes. That is an identity that Optic is going to have to embrace. If they try to lean into it and they're like, oh, we're going to play more Irelia, oh, we're going to play more carries top, like, it's just not going to work out for them.
I definitely don't think the bot lane. I think you might have over-exaggerated their strength there. I'll give it up to the mid and the jungle. They're fucking studs. The problem is, it is just top lane is the biggest gaping hole, because they have a player who was like his Aurelia. What was the point? He just wasn't even in the fucking game. It was irrelevant.
Yeah. So,
and then, as you said, and we nailed this on the other episode. Guess what? As soon as the week they lost 2 games was the week when no one let them play Poppy.
The Irelia into GP matchup is a matchup that can be even, but Irelia has a lot of potential for outplays, potential for killing the gangplank. When the jungler plays towards Irelia or like diving and snowballing on the GP, they just let Irelia and GP be, and Impact started to poke out Dokla with gangplank Qs. And then after that, like, they never touched the Irelia, so Gangplank is a stronger split pusher, Gangplank is the stronger team fighter. They just took an OP pick and made it absolutely trash.
I think that's the thing as well. Like, Optic look by the form of the other players. Like, as it stands now, I don't think they'll go all the bottom. I would assume personally they'll become like the 5th or 6th best team. They look like they have a decent enough quality, but that is the problem. Like, in League of Legends, I mean, think about how people were bashing Impact just preemptively going into MSI. This is not a game right now where you can have your top laner be the worst in the whole league and think you're going to compete for a title. Like, that isn't going to happen in League of Legends right now. Like, even so, for example, people obviously loved with Griffin to say like, well, Sword isn't the best top laner. You know what? He isn't at all. But of the players who know they aren't at all good top laners, he knows how to play the game. The problem with Dokler is, like, I don't think I'd love to know genuinely, like, what players like that think when they see themselves in the game, how they're perceiving the match, like what they thought their win condition was, what they thought they were going to do, because none of it happens as far as I can tell.
I mean, their win condition is, I shouldn't drain resource. Like, someone on the team has to make sacrifices and someone has to play independently. And, like, that's how, like, you sell it as a coach, right? Someone on the team is going to need to be a rock for the team, and you are that rock. Like, I am depending on you to be independent. We will snowball the other side. Like, that's how you sell it, and that's how he views himself in the game.
The problem is he's not that player. He isn't Impact. He's a rock that just fucking sinks to the bottom of the ocean. You know, difference is Impact's like a dolphin. He goes up and breathes a little bit of air, then goes back down for a while. And he's going. Dokler is just a rock that sinks to the bottom and dies 8 times in a game or something. Like, what do you want?
He's not that heavy of a rock. He's like slowly sinking, and most of the time, team will get the job done before he hits the bottom of the sea.
That's the race. The race is between, can they kill the Nexus before he hits the bottom of the ocean?
Mm-hmm.
If he gets to Davy Jones' locker, it's over. That's it. It's the end of that point, right?
Slowly thinking.
As soon as SpongeBob says, "Hey, aren't you the shittest top laner in the league?" That's the end of the game. They've lost.
Yes. When they get to Bikini Bottom, things are over.
Exactly. That's the new thing. What we're going to do is we're going to play SpongeBob's clarinet every time it's getting to the point in the game where Dokler can no longer absorb pressure. That's the other thing. When Impact absorbs pressure, right, he does it because he understands the matchup. He's been very clever. And when Dokler absorbs pressure, that's just them beating the shit out of him. Like, he's not choosing that. He doesn't have a choice what pressure he's taking there, does he? Just have no choice. You know, as I often say, the weak do what they must. The strong do what they can.
He does what he must.
The problem is, here's what I genuinely don't get on the Optic angle. Is, right, I know one of the problems they did have anyway, it was the same problem in the spring split, is that the players that are decent on the Optic Academy team basically correspond with the positions you'd probably want to play the better players in the starting team. So they're not a team like Rogue where you can just bring players up. But why do you think they haven't tried someone other than Dokler? Do you think there's not like some academy player they could get, a solo queue player? Surely there's someone it's worth a try at least to develop.
So their academy top Alorum, he used to also play for Echo Fox. I know people used to say good things about Alorum, and coaching staff usually has better read than pretty much everyone else, like especially outside looking in. And Optic coaching staff, I think, deserves somewhat of a respect and deserves somewhat credit now. So if Optic coaching staff thinks Dokler is better than Alorum and is better than the other options, then let him be. I just think that's the reality of the situation. Like, Dokler is the best option. Buyouts are too large, or people are not willing to sell, and within the org they have, and within like the solo queue, that talent that's available, they think this is the best roster they can run.
Like, I'm not even saying, obviously, like, they should get some top play. No, that's unreasonable. And obviously, at the moment, I don't even know, actually, in terms of their org, if they could, because obviously they've got the whole thing going on where they've been bought by Immortals, basically. But, like, put it this way, if you look at their team, mate, they're the team that need fucking Viper. An NA player, so you don't have to worry about the imports, can play, carry champions, doesn't need all the attention in the world top as well, and then you'd have a sick top and mid. And, by the way, Crown is not from America. He understands the concept of split pushing. I know he didn't do it in his old team because that wasn't his old team style play, but 100% he could do it. And that is Korean solo queue if anyone's never seen it. Like, if you ever watch like an Apto video, it's just a genius guy fucking split pushing the whole map while everyone else just doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
Mm-hmm. That is Crown. Split pushing to victory.
Do you actually think like they can take down any of the top teams?
No.
Like, who do you think they would have?
No.
Who would they have the best chance against though? Who would the best shot be? It's got to be TSM. Come on. Stylistically.
I was gonna say C9 because I thought maybe Crown Meteos can out wrestle Niski. Like,
actually, wait, yes, I hadn't thought that. That's, you know what, we're gonna get to C9 next, so maybe we'll transition this because that's the thing, Loco. I'm not as high on C9 as I was when the split began. Like, I thought they were the team that was going to like really challenge Team Liquid, maybe even take the top spot. But the player who has underwhelmed me the most this split is Niski. Like, that guy, because I told you, I actually thought in Spring Split, maybe this is why I had a misread. I thought in Spring Split that part of why he was good, but he wasn't like some standout superstar carry, he didn't carry a lot of games, was that he was like thinking, right, well, this is an established team. I'm replacing a player like Jensen. Got to ease my way into the team. You know what? I've got a coach who actually likes to play global meta. He likes to play all over the map. He doesn't want to play through just one lane. So great. This is great. I'll gradually work my way in. And I told you I wanted him also in Paul Belter fashion to get some carry picks. Let's go ham. It hasn't been that great, I have to say. It's massively up and down. He has had some really bad downs, in my opinion.
Well, I thought Niski has... C9 is a very good rookie team to play for because usually they'll have other 4 very good players around you, and also your job will be very clearly defined. So Niski's job a lot of times is very clearly defined, like, hey, after Yasuo, you're setting up knockups with Gragas. You're setting up Gragas to succeed. Like, so, what to say? I do think both Niski and Broken Blade has been really weird because I thought Niski and Broken Blade this would be their split they're developing, where both of them kind of took a backseat. It is still very early in the split, so I'll hold on and wait. And C9 has never truly failed to develop a player, so I don't think Niski will be the first.
You like this champion pool, though. Like, I have to say, I want this guy back on mages and stuff, man. I don't want to see him play fucking Yasuo.
I mean, Yasuo, Azir, stuff like that, like, he plays those because Reaper asks him to play those, and then they fit into the comp that they're trying to play. So I don't think he's like an amazing Yasuo. I don't think he's an amazing Azir either. I think his best champions were probably Zoe. His Ori was decent. Yeah, he was good on those main champions, but you need to play these. I don't think he should get forced back onto mages. I think that's the worst way to play with Niski and like kind of ruin his future. I think he is by far best like playing this way, and the C9 system is great for his development.
And then that leads into an obvious next question about Cloud9. Another thing that's bombing me out, Loco. I told you, from the meta I saw at MSI, admittedly it's been very different. Like I said in NA, like what you tend to get in NA now is like one of the teams will play like some sick carry top lane, and then the other team just plays like a bruiser or something, you know. Like half the time, it's not like the carry versus carry matchup that we had from the spring, but at the end of MSI. So the most underwhelming player overall on C9, in context, this is not like he's the worst player, just in the context of what I thought he'd do, is Licorice. I thought this guy was going to be a fucking MVP this split. Look at the guy. If you looked at the meta at MSI, I was like, this is going to be amazing. Just set it up. Let's fucking run through the top lane. He's been decent. He's had some good games. He doesn't look even like the best top laner. Never mind MVP of the league.
Smartness of C9 and the more completeness of C9 and the good coaching of C9 is shining more so than individual players. The only individual player I feel like that's really shined on C9 are the junglers in both Blabber and Sven.
Yes.
Licorice has been pretty meh. I agree with you. He got solo killed by Viper. He got solo killed by Broken Blade. Like, this is not the Licorice I'm used to. So, good thing they can play a lot of variety of style. Good thing they're getting leads in draft. But, yeah, kind of meh on Licorice.
Even though I realise if you look at how they've used Blabber over this split, in the last split, they're not going to play him often. And if they do, it's for like a specific game plan they have in mind. I personally would rather they just didn't play him at all, to be honest. Like, Svenskeren has done more than enough to earn, like, the starting spot every game. This guy is a fucking top jungler in this league, and he's one of the best factors on your team. So, like, I don't know if they're doing it with the logic of, like, well, maybe in the future, Blabber will be the jungler, and we're going to develop him, or whatever the fuck their logic is. But, like, I think it's kind of whack, personally. I think you're just risking losing games that you don't need to. Svenskeren's amazing right now. What's the point? It's like it's another Reaper like 200 IQ, except the person he 200 IQ'd was himself, which makes him 50 IQ. It's like he sometimes does that, you know. Like, does a move where it's like the joke would be something like opposing coach exists. Reaper like, you activated my trap card. Here's a pick you'd never know I'd pick because I didn't know I'd pick it. And then they're like, what the fuck? And he goes, yes, ha ha ha. You would never know I would pick that. They're like, I pick the direct counter and you lose.
Blabber is so weird. Blabber is so weird for me. He's a great prospect, and he's been great every time he's shown up for C9, other than Worlds. He's been great for C9 every single time he's played. But he's behind potentially the best jungler right now, and I would even say potentially one of the best players in LCS right now. I think it's like between Crown, Sven, and Solo maybe. Like these have been like the best 3 players, so like for Blabber to see legitimate play in playoffs, like he has to be the best jungler in the league. So yeah, Blabber's in such a weird place.
He's also in a really tough spot in as much as, like, I have to say this, and I've seen a lot of players obviously playing League of Legends in LCS. All the things he accomplishes right now on Cloud9 don't really boost his stock that much, because a lot of people probably have the same fear I do, which is after you saw contracts play on Cloud9, you think, Well, guess what? Contracts looked brilliant when he had 3 winning lanes. He looked brilliant when he had the best players in the league with him. When he was with worse players, he looked worse. Now, did he look terrible? At times, when he gave him good players again, he started to look good again. So the problem is, I think a lot of people would like to know, I'd like to know myself, what would happen if Blabber was on a different team? What would happen if Blabber was the jungler of 100 Thieves? I'd love to see that. What would happen if, well, I wouldn't in as much as it's a shit team, but you know what I mean? I'd like to see the challenge. I'd like to see if he actually is going to be a top player, because I will say, I won't make a massive rant out of this because I've mentioned it too many times on too many shows, but years and years ago, it was maybe a year or year and a half ago, Kelsey wrote an article when she was still a writer and not the coach of Bang, 2-time world champion, where she wrote an article where, it was an article where the concept was she thought that people like me had overvalued Dardoch. And the reason why went like this, because since I said he's one of the most valuable players in LCS because he's from NA, he's really good, and he's so young, right? So the idea is, as long as he doesn't fuck your team up, those 3 factors are massive upsides to a player. And her logic was this, right? Because I'm trying not to misrepresent her here. Her premise was, the problem in that scenario is if you communicate that to Dardoch, it will make him, he will be kind of toxic. And then even his teammates might think, yeah, but if he's so valuable, don't we have to put up with it? And her argument was that you don't, right? Because her argument was, there's plenty of jungle talent, at the time, like 2 years ago, she was like, there's Acadian came up and Mike Young and Grig. I can't remember if she put Grig in there, but those are like the players she was listing basically. And I have to say, even though I can't say Dardoch won his side of it because he's on the fucking bench himself, like he doesn't play in LCS. I think that's mainly just attitude related. I have to say, I think I won that one 10 times over. Like, look at those fucking names she had, like Acadian, Mike Young. Mike Young is the guy who literally, I don't know if you know this story, half the reason why none of the Europeans blame Mithy for his shit performance in TSM
is because of Mike Young.
The story they were told is he was like half teaching Mike Young fucking jungle at the same time as playing his own role. So like, Acadian himself, he's just had one good split, and even then it was quite one-dimensional. Like, I definitely won the Dardoch side of that. But my point is, there's been a lot of people who've been like jungle prospects, not many of them made it though. Not many of them are like actual starters and top players now.
I think junglers are just the hardest role to judge in isolation. Because a jungler looks good on a team does not mean he'll be great on another team. Because jungler looks bad on one team does not mean he'll be good on another team. So junglers are really fucking hard to judge. Like, remember Wiggly? Remember like how you shat on me for saying, "Oh, I think Wiggly is gonna be great." Wiggly is tied for having the most player of the game right now. I know that doesn't mean much, but he's been having.
I know what you mean, but that is such a tenuous fucking reason to give.
He's been great in summer, right? While he looked like one of the worst junglers in spring.
He's been pretty good, yeah.
And I think the switch out from Darshan to Ruin has boosted Wiggly so much. It's just the whole combination of a team means so much to a jungle and means so much to a jungle performance. It's really just hard to judge junglers in isolation.
I will say 2 things on that. One, even though I know you only give that as an example to like give some sort of a metric that he's been playing well this split, like first of all, player of the game means fuck all. That's why I've always criticized LCK because logically, if you're on a super sick team, you win it less often, don't you? Like if Bjergsen and Double both play for the same team, they'll
cannibalize each other. Yeah,
they'll win it way less than Jensen will if Jensen's not with a double F type person. So I mean, I'm going to go ahead and assume you don't think the fact that Froggen has 3 player of the game awards
means he's better than Bjergsen.
None, as far as I can tell.
Wow,
Froggen's
infinitely better than Bjergsen.
Yeah, it literally is. Yeah, he's 4,000% better. Yeah, mathematically, it's been proven, Loco. So that one checks out. Yeah, well done.
But anyways,
it's obviously also because on his team, as I said, he's most likely player to win it if they win the game because they basically play his style of League of Legends. Makes perfect sense. No, I know what you mean on that one, but the problem is this: like at this point, Blabber has to fly the nest. There's no point staying in Cloud9 beyond this year. Like at this point in time, assuming they don't let Svenskeren go, if they sign Svenskeren for next year, if you are Blabber, it's time to leave. Like, what's the point in sitting on the bench and playing 2 games a split and being a sub for Worlds? Go and actually have a career.
That is like a man move, and Blabber is still extremely young.
How old is he?
He's like 18, 19.
Okay, fair enough.
He's like, that's a man move, and Blabber is like extremely young. Like our C9 is the first home he's known, probably the first home he's known outside of his like family. And so like that kind of becomes your new family. Like you spend so much time with the team, you spend so much time with the coach. Cloud9 treats their players really well. Like I don't think Blabber will leave. I do agree.
I have no official connection with Golden Guardians whatsoever. This is not poaching. I'm just saying you'd look great in a Golden Guardian shirt, man. I think you could play with a legendary player like Froggen. You could also just sit around while Haunter lets other people carry the championships. That's when he gets the best, though. So
you don't think Froggen's a hard player to jungle for? I think Froggen's one of the hardest players to jungle for.
Here's the weird thing about Froggen. This is a very weird aspect because I always have to explain this to people because what people often say, Loco, is I actually think it's fallacious logic. But what they say is, if Froggen's as good as you say he is, then why isn't he on a top team? Well, one of the reasons for that is that Froggen has a really, really bad problem as a teammate, which I've told you is he is very accepting of other teammates who aren't good enough. I think a part of it is, believe it or not, this ties into the earlier discussion about like greatness and how some people go in a single-minded selfish way, some people go the opposite in a too unselfish. Froggen, historically, in my opinion, has veered too far towards the selfish side. And what he would think to himself is actually, by the way, a lesson that shows some development and growth and maturity as a person, which is when you get a toxic player, so Dardoch, Simple. One of the main reasons they express themselves in a way which people call toxic is actually that they really want to win the game. And they are so frustrated that their teammate couldn't do what they needed to do that the only way they can express themselves is to berate the guy, basically. Like, oh, you fucking idiot. Like, why did you do it? And so really, if they could communicate in different language, they would say something like, I actually expect you to be a better player than that. I expect you to do something right there. In scrims, you did it right. In the game, if they could explain themselves without like emotion skewing them, they'd say that, right? And the player might even understand. The problem with Froggen is, I think he actually was at that period earlier in his career when he was at the end of the Evil Geniuses time. And I think now, having seen so many different teammates, some good, some bad, some with a big name, some with a low name, he's just too forgiving. I think put it this way, if I played with contracts, I'd be raging at this guy at the end of every game. Like, what was that in game? Why the fuck are you going there? Like, what are you doing? Like, we had the lead at that point. Like, why'd you go into the fog of that war or whatever? Froggen doesn't ever seem to do that. He seems like a pretty chill guy in that respect. So, unfortunately, even though that's actually a positive to not be like going super ham on everyone, I also think it can be bad. Like, sometimes you should expect more of people.
I think Froggen
you've got to be balanced.
I think Froggen is extremely demanding as a mid laner.
Where are all the interviews where people just come out like, oh, I was just fucking flaming me all the time? It's never happened.
I don't think he flames people, but I think he wants certain things from jungler, probably regarding vision, probably regarding pressure, and like he makes it very clear. Like Froggen has his own brand of League of Legends, and as a mid laner, he probably has a very clear idea on what he wants his jungler to do and what he expects out of the jungler. He's definitely not a player that's just like, yeah, just jungle however you want and I'll fit it to you. Like, I would imagine there is back and forth.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all, mate. I'm saying he accepts underperformance and failure. That doesn't mean, like, I'm sure he wants to coach. Like, by the way, if I had to guess, I would imagine the way he exerts his control, Loco, is he just privately talks to the coach and asks the coach to say these things. He doesn't have to go directly to the player. Are you listening, people in LCS? There is another way to be an asshole successfully. You don't have to do it directly because then you get all the negative baggage. Right now, the coach is in theory in control, right? Tell that idiot who, when you've got the big contract, you go to the coach privately and you say, hello, coach, I'd sure love to be working under you next year. So could you go ahead and please tell the jungler to do this? Like, that's what I would do is like the sneak move, quite frankly, but not players haven't got the brains to go one level of abstraction, except maybe Bjergsen. Blink twice if it was true. Right. So now you have to just be like, this is a whole episode. Like, no, anyway, so you get my point on that one. Like, the problem I have with that is like, I actually think a player like Blabber, Froggen would love. He's fucking super aggro. He looks like he's mega hyphy, but in a good way. Contracts does it, and it's like, I feel like Contracts himself knows how. Contracts is the guy, right? I'll give you, this is the best analogy ever for Contracts. Are you ready? Contracts is the Lee Sin player who he knows 1 second after the Q press, like, I shouldn't have gone on that Q. But it's too late. He's already flying towards the target at that point in time. And there's the key thing. It's after he presses the Q and before he gets there that he realizes, like, oh shit, this is a mistake. And then because he realizes that, he knows he can't get out the plane. Just fuck yeah, I'm just dead, aren't I? Like, the difference is, you can be a guy who goes in all the time, but you've got to, everyone knows this. If you're going to be a super aggressive player like he is, you better have the fucking mechanics to stand up. Like, you better be able to do some Rush Season 5, Dardoch Season 6 level shit to get out of that bad moment that you went in on. You've got to be that guy. He isn't that guy.
Okay. I think Rush and Contracts you brought up, those are perfect examples. Like, Rush and Contracts are both like outplay based, early game, like aggressive junglers. When things work, they look amazing. When things don't work, like the drop off is so heavy, right? Blabber's cut from the same cloth. Like, I feel like Blabber if he goes to Golden Guardians and they don't synergize well, like it would look very, very similar to what we have with Froggen plus contracts. So I actually don't think Golden Guardians is a great home for him. I would much rather see him go to something like 100 Thieves, and 100 Thieves like build around like Blabber plus maybe like an import mid laner, or what other teams. I mean, CLG already has Wiggly. I actually think TSM Blabber wouldn't be that bad. Yeah, I can think of just so much better at home than Golden Guardians. I think Golden Guardians Blabber is going to be very similar to contracts.
Right, I've done it, guys. I've learned with Loco, right? Basically, the way that this show works actually represents the teams we talk about the most. I'm Golden Guardians on this show, except I'm not really, because I can actually control the whole fucking show, macro the shit of everyone. But in this analogy, whenever it's a TSM or Froggen-related issue, I play the role of Golden Guardians. I just sit back, I set up my vision, I wait for Loco to, with Acadian, just aggressively push on like the two champions he can play. And he comes in like, oh, what's going on in there? Am I a good jungler? Because I came into the fog of war. It's like, well, we'll find out. So Loco comes in, and all you have to do to beat Loco is you just give him enough time to talk, and he'll eventually say the thing that contradicts what he said earlier. So Locodoco had the gall to suggest that Froggen, who's played with about 50 shit junglers and always performed himself, must be like really demanding, like really tough teammate. But he would like Blabber so that he doesn't get, like abused by this really demanding mid laner who wrecks your style of play. Because he wants them to go to TSM and play with Bjergsen, the player who has literally killed more junglers than, I don't know, some fucking anti Ivory guy or whatever in Africa or something. That's how many junglers this motherfucker's killed. Like he's got like outside Bjergsen in his back room. He's got one room that's full of trophies. The other one, he's like Bluebeard. He's like, don't go in that room. Don't go in that room, Greg. You don't want to see what's in there. What's in there, Bjergsen? Listen, trust me, you love me as your mid laner, you won't go in that room. And if you go in there, there's just all fucking like junglers hanging from the roof. Like, it's like, I'd say it's unreal. You want Blabber to go to that team? Why would you do that to the guy? Come on, you got to give me that one. That's some bullshit.
But
of all the teams.
2 years ago, I don't think I would have had anything to say, but I think Bjerg has been so much better about working with junglers this year. You have to admit, with Acadian and Greg. I'll tell you this. Acadian and Greg aren't in that room. I will admit, Mike Young Young's in there, Centaurin's in there, Odd One is in there, Mike Young and Greg. Or Greg and Acadian is not in there.
We haven't seen enough of Greg yet to fully decide on that one. We'll see. He hasn't had a chance yet to fully... You don't get turned to the dark side immediately. The guy has to tell you, like, there are a lot of powers. You have to give all the fucking speech at the opera, don't you? Like, Bjergsen hasn't done the speech at the opera yet. Acadian, I got it for you. He managed to resist the temptation somehow. I don't know how he did it, but at the moment, he can resist. That's why I personally think Acadian, by the way, should be the jungler of TSM. Because he actually seems like the one guy who just plays his game no matter what the fuck Bjergsen whispers in his ear about fucking midichlorians and the ability to reverse death.
Wait. We actually didn't hit that topic when we were talking about TSM earlier. Greg played both games this weekend, and when I interviewed Broken Blade said, it doesn't mean we're going to use Greg next weekend. It doesn't mean Greg won out the spot. We've seen full weeks with Acadian and Spring Split, so we wanted to see what a full week with Greg looks like this split. And from my point of view, maybe there's some truth in that, but I still think TSM is leaning a lot more towards Greg, and Greg has looked better for TSM. And TSM as a whole has loosened the shackle on junglers with what they've seen with Acadian. So I think Greg will be the better jungler. I really disagree with Acadian being the better jungler. I just believe in Greg so much more.
Well, hopefully they play him loads so we can find out who indeed was the better jungler. Problem is, though, like on that one, it'll never really work because unless they play them an even amount of time, whoever doesn't get played, they'll just be like, well, I didn't get a chance to play. And then you'll be like, well, he didn't play because he wasn't good enough. So it'll just become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I actually hope, by the way, if what they say is true, that they do that they give them roughly equal playing time, or whoever deserves the playing time gets it. It's a proper battle. Let's have a real battle for that spot.
Also, for Acadian, right? He's very much a confidence-based jungler, and he needs to kind of believe in himself. I think this is going to do a number on his confidence, like sharing a spot with Greg, Greg winning games while he doesn't win games. Like, it cannot feel good.
The only thing is, though, Like, do you actually really believe that they're just like they obviously they were very cagey in the interview. I understand that because they don't want to like sound like they favor one player or like, diss the other guy. Do you really believe that they are just purely trying the position out and it's like based on scrims? Do you think they do it based on like what type of champions they want to play or what style they want to play? Do you think there's a particular reason as to why they go with one jungler or the other at the moment?
Ultimately, I think they're trying to figure out who's the best for their team and who synergizes best with Bjerg and Broken Blade. I think that matters the most.
I mean, one thing I will say about Greg is he's better on fucking Hecarim than Arcadian.
Oh, Arcadian Hecarim was atrocious.
Not a fan of his Hecarim, mate. Not a fan of his Hecarim. I actually will also say that as well. To be fair, even though stylistically I prefer Arcadian for TSM, I think the jungle meta right now probably suits Grig more. If you look at what people are playing.
I just think Grig is better overall. I think it's like all the little stuff.
We understand unconditionally you're just going to like him no matter what. I mean, I assume basically he must be like one of the 10 people in the fucking scene who either you either don't want to fuck his girlfriend or you haven't fucked his girlfriend. Whichever of those options makes
Can we not go there?
Small 10-person. Sorry, I forgot the persona on the show. Wish you could have fucked his girlfriend. There we go. That's right. You dreamt about fucking his girlfriend. There we go. We kept it within bounds. My bad.
Oh my god! You just start shit. You just like oh my. I just want to talk about League of Legends. Like you nothing happened, and then you put that out there. Now people think something happened. Now I'm gonna have to have a conversation because people think something happened. It's oh my god. Oh, I just want to
just say it was just what you say is it was harmless banter. Harmless banter.
Oh my god. I hate you so much. Let's go to 100 Deep. They won a game.
Yeah, but it's against Echo Fox. That's the problem, Loco. Here's the thing. I wasn't actually high on them after the spring. I just said, like, there's so many factors that were like X factors that could turn around and make them at least decent, like an okay team. I have to say, almost none of them have come to play. Like, even Amazing joining. I don't think there's that much of a difference. I think he's done all right.
Amazing's been better. Amazing's been so good for the team.
I'm not a huge fan of him individually as a player, but I think he's generally been a better addition. I think that's been pretty good. I think Ander was I think he was just washed on that team. Nothing was going to happen for him. It was the wrong team entirely even to give him a chance on. So I think Amazing brings something, but it ain't enough to make 100 Thieves a good team. Like, this team is still atrocious, mate. It's a fucking bad team, a really bad team. And I still don't get it because, like, this is why I have to say I am starting to come on the side of, like, since I know from some of those interviews and some things I've heard that Prolly does have a lot more say than some coaches do in how the team's structured, who they get, etc. I'm starting to feel like he can't be doing a great job because what are the odds all these names become shit overnight? Like, I don't know if you know this concept on Summon and Insight, the joke I used to have, because that is how fans view players. Like, a player one split's like doing amazingly. They're like, wow, what a great player. Next split, he's bad. They're like, he's just bad. It's like, my joke on Summon and Insight was, what happened to the fucking skill vampires get in overnight and just drain him dry? And then the next morning he woke up like, what? My arms don't seem to work here. It's like, no, obviously, like, either the meta changed or his team didn't work, or maybe he's fucking going through some shit in his personal life, or maybe he was just having a couple of good games the first time he saw him. There's a million factors, but these are too many veterans, Loco. That's my problem. Like, it's not like Sunday's just a beginning Korean player. The guy's been playing since the beginning of League of Legends. Afromu, beginning of League of Legends. Even Bang was around in like fucking season 4 or whatever. Like, these are veteran players. Like, how can so many of them be so underwhelming at once?
Bang was around since season 3, maybe even season 2-ish, if I remember correctly.
Maybe on some bad team, yeah.
Yeah. 100 Thieves is also a really weird one to figure out because, like FlyQuest, you have good pieces, but the result is so atrocious. Like, 100 Thieves has so many good pieces, and the result is also atrocious. Like, at least this iteration of 100 Thieves looks better. I like Fake God Ryu better than Someday Soligo. I just think mid lane is way too important, and Fake God has been a better rookie than Soligo has. But yeah, like, this team's, I think, 1-5, right? Their chances of making playoffs are extremely slim, and I'm not sure what the next few weeks look like for them. Like, they have to make a miracle run, and this was one of the teams with championship aspirations, not world's aspirations. Like, this was a team that wanted to win first place. Like, that was their goal for 2019, and they were so fucking far away from it.
Like, fair play to Ryu. He obviously is washed up in his career. Like, I think I would go ahead and guess he himself's probably ready to retire or starting to take a step back. He doesn't look like he's like driven to play as a player, but he's been all right in the context they had to bring him back in an emergency, where obviously this legal move wasn't great. So he's been okay. The problem is there's still a team that doesn't have one really good LCS player on the team. As it right now, just this second, if we take the nameplates off, they don't have a good LCS player, Loco.
Their best player would probably be Amazing, and like Amazing would be like 7th or maybe 8th.
I even think, by the way, in line with what we were doing with the junglers before, I think he's in for a world of hurt, by the way, because if you know Amazing in his career, he's a guy who will complain when he doesn't like the way things are and when he doesn't like the way people are in his team, or if he doesn't think someone practices enough or someone has a bad attitude. Well, the problem is in this team, he is going to lose a lot more games as well. And a lot more of his teammates are going to be shitty and let him down. And by the way, sadly, he'll probably himself get flamed for that and be told that, he's washed up and a total bomb and all the rest of it. So I have to say, he's not exactly like the most fucking happy-go-lucky guy anyway. I think that's not a good fit overall, considering they're going to be a losing team. If they'd been a team on the brink, like they were a 50% win rate team, I think I might be okay. As a veteran, you could probably get through it. But I don't think this is the time in your career to be on a fucking 1-5 type team. This is a really, really not good spot for him. What do you think? You know him personally. He can be a little bit fiery like that.
Amazing is he's never quiet. That's for sure. Amazing's always vocal. Amazing has his own opinions. Amazing is usually positive, and he will fix stuff. But I do think this team is even hard for someone like Amazing to fix. So what to say? There's just not much good things to say about 100 Thieves. I think it's an uphill climb for them to make playoffs.
Right, now's the portion of the show where you try and take CLG beating GGS and Team Liquid and sell me that this is actually a really good team now. Is that what you're going to
do? I think the thing is, the spring split CLG gave us the wrong expectation for CLG. So right now, this CLG looks amazing. But they were probably a Golden Guardians level team. They were a Golden Guardians level team with one player off. And that one player was Ruin, or that one player was Darshan. And then there's just a sudden jump. So I think it's very easy to overrate CLG. But I think their skill level and their just level as a team is somewhere around Golden Guardians. They can take the game off top 3. They probably won't beat them in the best of 5.
It's not even like Ruin's doing that sick. I actually do really think, as harsh as it sounds,
addition by subtraction
was more important than plus Ruin. At this point, it was minus Darshan plus anyone who can just play the picks at the moment.
Addition by subtraction. So the worst thing that Darshan did was he would hog draft resources. They would either draft in OP picks or they would give him counter picks. He would hog in-game
resources. Or he had to play a certain couple of things because he wasn't good enough, yeah.
He would hog in-game resources in terms of jungle pressure, and also jungle decision-making. So there was so much onus on Darshan, and he didn't deliver. It's kind of like Huni. Huni's great when he gets the resource and he delivers, but when Huni doesn't deliver, it looks garbage. And
it's like this, basically. If Huni is your best player, great. It's probably going to go awesome. If he's not your best player, he's just going to kill your team. He's going to drain the team.
And that was the style that Darshan was playing. And then now they took that away. Bot lane has a lot more freedom. Jungle has a lot more freedom. Mid lane, I think, is performing kind of the same level as last split. It's just the minus of Darshan has freed up bot lane and jungle so much more.
If CLG, at the end of this year, I don't know what the contract for Ruin looks like, but if I were them, I don't think from what I've seen right now and the times I've seen in the past that they should stick with him. I don't think he's a good enough player. If they just go out and get, it doesn't even have to be a really good one. It could be some academy prospect. If they go and get a European top laner, bearing in mind the positions they have on their team, this team could, in line with what you said, it could be them and Golden Guardians who are right below the TSM. They could be right there. They could again be a playoff team, starting to become relevant again, and then you can see what you can do after that. Because the rest of the team right now, I know Wiggly's only played a few games this split and been really good, but the rest of the team looks really solid. That mid to the bottom half of the top, pretty solid. Wiggly's been good. The problem is Ruin himself doesn't actually look like a good player thus far to me, at least not on the level of what I think this team could be.
The sad thing that I will kind of think about is 100 Thieves used to be the second best team, and maybe if they kept Meteos, and maybe if there was another NA ADC, that would have worked out. I know there were internal drama within the team, and Meteos probably or Meteos after whatever the fuck it was, wasn't working out. But yeah, like it's so weird that 100 Thieves is like just fucking gone. Like where we could have a lot of top teams, and NA actually been really competitive. Spring split for this year.
And let's be real, right? Even though you bigged up Ander when he first came on 100 Thieves, and yes, I'll agree at Worlds he had a couple of good games that actually looked like of all the bad problems they had on that team, he wasn't one. I have to say, like the Meteos removal was the real downfall of that team. That's like the actual like first domino. It just took a while for them to all fall. Because if you look historically, he is one of the greatest LCS players you've ever had. Like to replace him, it would have to have been like Wiggly coming through the door or some like top talent. Like, and there isn't the player to replace him, mate.
Meteos' downfall or Meteos leaving or getting kicked was fine. It's their adaptation between 2018 and 2019 that was just so fucking bad. I think it was a domino.
Look how it murked their style, though. Like, Meteos was perfect for that late-game style they had. He was exactly the jungler you wanted, and you had self-sufficient laners. Brilliant. That's exactly what Meteos wants to play with.
They had a chance to build a new opportunity. They had an off-season to build a new identity for the team, and they failed to build that identity. And, like, they're suffering more from the mistakes of off-season more so than kicking up Meteos. Like, there is a world where 100 Thieves remains a top team after kicking Meteos, but they just couldn't capitalize in the off-season properly.
I don't think it would have been with Ander, though.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been with Ander.
That world doesn't exist. That's the problem as well. They did the other classic move of thinking, right, well, that's that position sorted. It's like, come on, he hasn't shown you that much. I haven't got faith in the guy yet for a year.
It was a really easy trap to fall into because of how good he looked at Worlds. And, like, just his trajectory of growth, his growth stopped and it kind of stagnated from that point. Who have we not
Do you actually think that Bang will stay in LCS? Like, knowing, I don't know if you know him very well as a person, but, like, do you really think he's going to be one of these someday Hooney guys who's like, I'm just going to get as many NA checks as I can until the rest of my career. I'm going to play, I'm going to do my job, that's it. Or is he actually going to think, like, what the fuck have I done with my career? Like, I've tanked it. And he's going to go back to Korea. He's going to go somewhere else. What do you think?
It's hard to say if he's enjoying NA, if he's just having a miserable time on 100
Surely
Thieves.
he can't be. I mean, he also plays on Academy half the time now.
Yeah,
like, no one's enjoying that.
Bang's a hard one to read because he's not enjoying NA, but not for NA reasons, for 100 Thieves reasons. And I'm not sure if there's a team. I'm not sure if 100 Thieves is going to keep him for next split. And I'm not sure if there's a team that would want him for next split. So he's in a really weird spot.
Plus, you can't even trust what he says. Like that time he lied about hating Burger King and then ate the Burger King on the stream. Fucking liar.
Ate 2 Whoppers.
I mean, he's eating fucking a Whopper every week nowadays, isn't he? It's just that L. Tell you what, it's hard to swallow that L, isn't it? That massive fucking L you have to eat every single day. 100 Ls. That's what the team should be called. Because they're going to get to 100 Ls before they get to 100 Ws. I'll tell you that right now. Fucking hell, this team's bad, isn't it? Because the other thing that kills me about the squad, it's like I always harp on and on about. It's like, when you know how much money they've got, that's the killer. Yeah. It's like, this isn't like CLG. It's like, well, we better tighten our wallets and, really go for a budget move here. It's like, no, in theory, these guys should have been out there, like, putting out the big fucking, like, sending a check to a player, like, massive, like, we're going to challenge for this top star player,
I'd imagine Bang couldn't have been cheap. He has to be one of the best paid players in LCS.
Well, that's the saddest thing, isn't it? Is that, again, if they'd have gotten him as a bargain, I'd say fair enough, get worth a gamble. But knowing that he did come because he is a world champion, a SK Telecom, all that bullshit, what a waste of money. It just wasn't the right team for it. It definitely wasn't worth that much money. Like, I'd struggle to think of teams I would put him on. Like, let me think. Maybe Clutch Gaming could have got him instead of Piglet. I think that's about the only one I can think of that's like a decent, like, not a terrible move overall. Even then, probably still not worth that much money. There's plenty of players can do that.
Yeah, I can't think of anywhere.
Well, all right, let's do this then. Let's have a fun game. There are 3 teams in the league who are 1-5. They have 100 Thieves, Echo Fox, FlyQuest. Right? You have to pick one of the 3 to somehow escape the swamp, to actually claw their way through the pipe of shit like Andy Dufresne in the Shawshank Redemption, spoiler, and then get to the end and then come out like, in the rain like that. And by the way, fuck everyone who has headphones, including everyone. Right, so which one of the 3 makes it out? 100 Thieves, Echo Fox, or FlyQuest? Which of the 3 do you pick?
Echo Fox or FlyQuest? Echo Fox or FlyQuest? Echo Fox or FlyQuest? FlyQuest has better players overall, but Echo Fox has better singular players. I think Solo and Phoenix, and even Lost to a certain degree, are better singular players. I can't figure.
I think this is a really tough one, mate. I think you can go anywhere on this one, actually.
I don't
maybe
think,
100.
yeah, it's FlyQuest or Echo Fox. I'm gonna lean Echo Fox because they had to play the tougher teams, so their schedule is gonna be easier, and they have the best players out of this 1 and 5 group. So I'll go Echo Fox.
Because here's the thing, I get why you do that. Like, I could definitely go either way on those two, Echo Fox, FlyQuest. But I also do feel like my problem with Echo Fox is, like, they have no fucking ceiling. Like, even if they get better than this, they're still going to be a mid-table team. FlyQuest, I know it's looked so bad this split. I know it's looked terrible. It looks like they're done. They just have so many average to good players. Like, they should come out of it. Like, logically, they should be the turnaround team. You know, you have a team every split who does this. You have a team who starts super high and goes to the bottom of the end. You have the team that starts bad and goes... I think they're going to be the team that does it. Now, here's the thing. They're not going all the way to the top. Like, they're not some Fnatic shit. Like, they're probably going to be, like, you know, the 5th or 6th best team, even if they do the turnaround. Mm-hmm. And that would obviously take, at this point in time, a lot of fucking wins because there's only 12 games left and they've only won 1 out of the first third of the split. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be hard, but I think I'll take FlyQuest overall because even though my lying eyes tell me they're fucking garbage, I think they theoretically have the best overall team of the 3. 100 Thieves, that just shows how bad 100 Thieves is, though. That we both basically agree, like, don't even bother including them in that. They can't do it. They can't.
Worst thing about FlyQuest, like why it's hard for me to pick FlyQuest, is I can't pinpoint their problems. I cannot, like, tell you this is what FlyQuest is struggling with and this is how they fix it. I know they're struggling with mid game, but I can't tell you why or, like, break it down exactly.
So then tell me what Echo Fox is struggling with.
What Echo Fox is struggling with. Mid and jungle consistency, that's a huge one. Bot lane is so resource heavy. Whenever they don't get the resource, they do really badly. They don't know how to play independent. Solo, their best player, is kind of just left out there to play, like, impact. So they need to find an identity, and they need their bot lane to stabilize, and they need their mid lane to stabilize, and they can start winning team fights. Because Phoenix is a great team fighter, Lost is a great team fighter. Like, they need refinement, and they need stability from mid and bottom.
If you're going to play Lost, at least fucking look like you put him in because you actually think he's, like, some fucking sick AD carry. Like, I don't want to see him playing Sona and Lucian. What is this garbage? Like, I get it. If you put him in and he plays Kai'Sa and you play fucking comp around him and he's going to carry the game, I could see that logic. But if you're not going to do that, just go ahead and put fucking Apollo back in, will you? Like, that guy actually is a consistent player.
I think Apollo...
He hasn't got very high peaks, but he's a consistent player.
Apollo Phoenix is definitely the better iteration. Yasui Lost is a 2020 move. It has to be. Apollo Phoenix is definitely the better... it's the better look for Echo Fox, so it's really hard to say why they do the Yasui Lost thing.
I mean, I would assume it's just like you said, because of the Phoenix residency thing, they want to play Yasui in, therefore why not just play Lost as well, or some logic like that, right?
It's a 2020 move, right? Because for 2019, like, Phoenix Apollo is just objectively better.
Surely one of them's going to be gone by next year. So they want to see which of these players is there. That's not even a bad concept, actually, bearing in mind they are one of the worst fucking teams in the league and they're losing. Like, you may as well at least test the players out, especially because actually, you know what? Even though it's not great logic, like, I don't think it actually will give you as many wins individually. You may as well decide this split. Are we ever going to actually use this Lost guy or not? If we're not, why the fuck are we wasting import spot? Send him home or send him to another team. Mm-hmm. If we are, then let's go ahead and get rid of Apollo and move forward. Like, that almost does make sense. It's just that at the moment, I don't think the way they're playing will ever actually activate Lost. He looks worse at the moment. But not necessarily through a fault of his own. I mean, it is in a way. He's just not good enough as a fucking laner, and it's just not that sort of player. But it's underwhelming to me. Like, I don't really... Like, when you were saying they were going to be the team out of the 3, I don't know what you think's going to change. What's going to change?
More Apollo Phoenix, Rush being more stable. Apollo being in bot lane will instantly stabilize that bot lane. I know Phoenix Rush isn't my favorite or the most consistent Korean mid and jungle duo, but it can't be worse than Yusui Rush. So there still is a shot for Echo Fox.
I think Rush is just one of the most depressing players to watch play the fucking LCS now. What a waste of time.
Oof.
What a waste. This guy, here's the thing. I don't mind... you can lose games and still be making great plays and fucking sick outplays, etc. Like, how many times? Like, if you had to count now, someone had a gun to your head, and all that they have to do, Loco, is you don't have to guess exactly the amount. You just have to not be off by too many. Mm-hmm. How many mega outplays do you think Rush has done this split?
Oh, probably less than 5. Probably like
It's not many, is it? It can't be many. It can't be many. So as a result, that isn't Roche, mate. Think of who Roche is as a player. Like, he's supposed to be a game changer. This is supposed to be the guy where if you get him his pick or he gets ahead, he'll take over the whole game. Like, at the moment, I wouldn't even trust him to take over my stop at Taco Bell at 2 a.m. as everyone's just getting ready to eat future diarrhea.
Damn, poor guy. Gets shit on every episode by Duncan.
I mean, literally in this particular case, yeah, exactly.
All right. Final team Clutch. What's your take on Clutch?
This is a weird team, isn't it? Because I have to say, I don't know what on earth they did. Like, it's the player changes alone, I don't feel like can account for this. But it's not actually a terrible team. It's an okay team. Like every time I watch them, I keep waiting for them to drop super hard and look absolute shit. They still look all right. They actually, I don't know. I assume part of it's getting Hoodie more comfortable. They actually look like they're turning it around, mate. The problem is that's still only good enough to be like fucking outside a playoff spot, probably. Maybe the last playoff spot, but they're not terrible, actually. They're a lot better than they were in spring. A lot better.
Definitely another addition by subtraction team. Like minusing Piglet and adding Cody, it made DeMonte more of a leader on the team. It made DeMonte happier on the team. It probably made Vulcan happier on the team. And for Huni and Lyra, because of probably like the Korean connection and Korean like loyalty, they probably stood up for some, or not stood up. They didn't speak up about Piglet's bad behavior, so it probably put a real divide for the team. And getting rid of that like has done wonders for this team.
Let me ask you a question. I know, and one thing we've talked about many times on this show with many guests is that, like, obviously, one thing people don't factor in is that Koreans themselves often behave differently when they're outside of Korea. Because it's the same as, like, imagine being at a school. I know a lot of kids sadly won't be able to relate to this because school isn't like this anymore. But if you ever have a whole bunch of school kids, right? When I was at school, right, they couldn't like beat you up. It wasn't that era, you know. They couldn't be like super strict in that sense. But in general, they were fairly strict with rules, you know. Like you couldn't wear like outside clothing. Your tie had to be a certain length. You had to like have all your books with you and be on time and stuff. But one thing that was a famous trend, right, is you know if you ever got like one of your teachers is ill and the substitute teacher comes, famously everyone's like way more like
rowdy.
Yeah, they just misbehave because they know like can probably get away with it. He doesn't have the authority, etc. So like. There is an element where I've already noticed over my time in League that Koreans, both in StarCraft and League, who went outside of Korea to non-Korean teams, one of the things that they were loving was misbehaving, basically, like just getting to be like a Western kid, basically, not having to have all the strictness of Korea, right? But why do these players all of a sudden also like accept essentially, like, I hate the word toxic, but, you know, like that type of behavior? Like, what? Like, surely it should have been the Koreans who were like, get this guy the fuck out of our team. This is bullshit.
Maybe, but also there's like certain loyalty to them because they both speak Korean and they probably spoke to each other a lot, so they probably didn't actively speak up about it. That's my guess.
So they're basically racist, right? That's an interesting take, but we'll move on.
Not racist, like loyal to like the heritage.
I don't know. That sounds like some bullshit. Here's the thing, mate. If I meet someone from the UK and he's a massive arsehole, I don't go, well, you're from the UK, so you're right with me. I go, fuck this guy. You know, maybe that's just different. Maybe we're different in that sense.
Maybe so. Koreans are very nationalistic pride. Like Koreans outside, like try to help other Koreans. It's hard to explain, but there's definitely like a loyalty aspect to it.
Don't you think it was a mistake that the teams that have picked Piglet aren't the teams that have a Korean head coach?
I mean, TL did for a while, Clutch did for a while. Like TL had me, and then TL had D-Lin, and then Clutch had D-Lin.
I don't know. I mean like a traditional Korean coach, though. Like, I don't count you in that way. You're more like a Westerner in that sense, man. I mean like the guy who would actually like force
Song.
Piglet
you
to
want
play.
Song and Kane.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that would have helped Piglet that much. Piglet was very stubborn on what he wanted to do and what he didn't want to do, so I don't think it would have really... I really genuinely don't think it would have changed that much. I think Piglet still would have been who he wanted to be.
What's who he got to do with it?
Who he wanted to be.
It was a dad joke.
Yeah.
It was one of our fucking Thorin dad jokes, wasn't it? Like, oh, who he? I think he's my mate, isn't he? Like, I'd be doing that all the time if I was at CLG or whatever.
I mean, time's ticking for you for dad jokes, no? If you had
I don't know if you're aware of this, Loco, but like, I know you get confused, but it's women whose eggs, there's a limited amount inside their body that once they get older, it doesn't matter. I could be 60 and fucking I could be just going a bit crazy in a fucking public bathroom sometimes. It's unisex. There might be a little ginger-haired kid running around 9 months later. I'm going to be virile as fuck till the very end, mate.
Yeah, isn't it? Do you want to raise a kid when you're fucking 60 or 70? That does not sound like a fun time.
Who said I was ever planning on raising them?
Oh my god.
My whole approach is like anime. I want to just seed the world with my genetics. And actually, quite frankly, if they're at all like me, I expect them to become become independent, learn, be autodidacts, and then come and battle me for the throne. That's what I want.
Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2? This is kind of the plot of the movie, Hugo.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I also have a massive ego, so it works. Not as cool as like fucking whatever. What was the actor in that one?
I forgot. It's some old white dude.
It's quite a famous actor as well, but I can't remember his name now. Yeah, whatever. Whatever. We all know who I'm talking about. That's the end of the episode. That was the last team. That's the end. Goodbye. Oh, wait. And all this stuff. If you want to support this show, go to patreon.com/thisandloco. Actually, by the way, unless I'm wrong, do you do a separate video that actually does read out the names of the people who are on the Patreon?
No, after this is done, I read it out separately, and then the editor puts it all together. Also, guys, if you have Twitch Prime, don't forget to sub to me. If you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, you can catch us live on twitch.tv/Locodoco. If you're watching it on YouTube, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe. We love you all. And then I'm going to hang up the call and thank the Patreons. Later, Duncan. Thank you so much for our gold Patreon supporters, William Hishon, Tobias Bernasconi, Icelandic C9 fan, and Butt Pounder 420. Without you guys, this would not be possible. And thank you to all our other Patreons, Silver, Bronze, and Iron. You guys still matter. Thank you so much for keeping the lights on in Listen Loco world.